95. And today we are here to facilitate a town hall meeting with our parents of returning students and parents of new students and parents of interested students, if that's the case as well. On this afternoon, I am joined by our wonderful headmaster, Clifford Reynolds. I'm also joined by one of our faculty, Dean of Instruction, Mrs. Adrian Warfield Rhodes, joined by Dean of Men, Dean Walter Reddick, Dean of Women, Dean Lisa Marshall, and Dr. Joseph Cheatham, who will be sharing some very important information as it relates to our re-entry. At this time, I want to give our headmaster, Mr. Clifford Reynolds, a moment to address those who are watching, a moment to just share whatever opening remarks that are relevant. And then there are some questions that we are going to intersperse throughout our time together, as well as a very informative PowerPoint presentation that Dr. Joseph Cheatham and Headmaster Reynolds are going to share with you that's going to help to answer a lot of questions for you. And so, Principal Reynolds, at this time, we turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We just want to let you know that we are so excited to be able to have our first town hall, well, really our second town hall meeting. The first one was with our alumni, and now it's the second one with our new parents, and we are also having our returning parents come to talk with us about how we're reopening for 2020-2021. First of all, I just want to say, thank you for joining us. And before we get started, let's have a word of prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for the opportunity to come together in this manner. We're asking you, Father, to fence around all the technology that we have. We're asking that every voice is heard and everyone is clear so that our parents may know in the direction that we will go. We want to ask you to continue to give us wisdom. We ask you to give us direction so that we can lead. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So first of all, I want to say emphatically, we are opening on campus at Pine Forge Academy for the 2020-2021 school year, August 10th. Now, before we do that, we are going to talk to you about a few steps, or really we have a lot of steps, but we don't have a lot of time to tell all of it to you. We are sending a letter out to you very soon, but we want to break down some of our health protocols that we are actually putting in place now so that your student can be safe. First of all, we want to let you know that at no better time than this, that when Ellen White says that our students need to come away from the cities, this is the reason why. We have over 575 acres of land that we can scroll and spread out on during this particular time. So we are going to make sure that your students are healthy, but make sure that we can stay safe and that we can spread out over our campus. We will be starting our staggered start starting on August 2nd, and you'll hear way more about that in the next coming days. But without any further ado, I want to introduce to you Dr. Cheatham, who's been working with us, along with Dr. Wallington, along with Vice Principal Fielder, along with our deans, Dean Reddick and Dean Marshall, along with our science teacher, Ms. Corinne Joseph, and our nursing staff, Ms. Audrey Booker. So they're all working feverishly to make sure that we are on campus and that we are on campus safely. So without any further ado, we will talk, Dr. Cheatham will go through some protocols that we will use as we open our school.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to say that we are excited for the opportunity as a task force to communicate with you about the issues at hand and the opportunities that we have to open up this school in a very safe manner. I'm speaking to you not only as a prior graduate in 1993, but also as a father of a student that just recently graduated, Joey Cheatham, and also a daughter, Christine Danielle, who will be attending as a sophomore next year. I first want to ask to make sure that the screen can be seen correctly. Okay, we're going to continue. So the objectives today are to understand the COVID-19 virus. And particularly, I want to take the opportunity to explain why a questionnaire along with quarantine are the best options in achieving a virus-free campus. And describe the process of quarantine and briefly describe Pine Forge Academy's risk reduction program that we have in place to ensure a safe year COVID-free. I'm going to use the term COVID-19 PCR test. And when I use that term, I want it to be understood that I'm talking about the nasal swab genetic test that you've seen people get on TV. COVID-19 is no longer new to us. We understand this virus. We know that you can get the virus through respiratory droplets. And primarily, it's when you are within 6 feet of individuals for a prolonged period of time, about 15 minutes. This places you at the highest risk for contracting the virus. We know that the virus is expressed through respiratory droplets when you cough, sneeze, talk, singing. And it can remain in the air for up to 8 to 13 minutes if the air is uncirculated. We also know that it can spread through the fecal or fomite route, where normal chloroforms that are on surfaces where humans are can get into the nose area and cause an infection. It can also be given to pets, and then pets transmit it back to humans. You cannot get it from food as a result of the virus being destroyed by your gastric acids. We also know the symptoms that occur in individuals. And just recently, we have pretty good data to show the symptoms that occur in young individuals. Young people present with a different set of symptoms than adults. Usually loss of taste and smell, fever, and myalgia are the greatest presentation symptoms that young people present with. Less common symptoms, but that can be associated with the virus include cough, nausea, fatigue, shortness of breath, chest pain, abdominal pain, runny nose, diarrhea, headache, vomiting, and sore throat. There are phases that make this virus particularly contagious. Pre-symptomatic phase, time period before your symptoms start, usually 1 to 3 days, and the asymptomatic state, usually before your symptoms develop or you never develop symptoms. A lot of times these folk really do have symptoms, but they're so mild that they don't register them. We also know how this virus dies. It dies readily by sunlight exposure or UV light. Common disinfectants kill it readily, as well as warm soapy water. We know that stomach acid kills it, and we know that it can't survive for longer than 3 days on surfaces that are not cleaned. When the body kills it, before it can get to another person, it's also an avenue of effective neutralization of the virus, keeping it from going from one person to the next. We also know how contagious this virus is. My wife just told me we're having a problem with the slides. Is that the case?
I'm still on.
Yes, Dr. If we can just, there you go. Thank you. There you go. That's it. That works.
Okay. COVID-19, how contagious is it? Well, we know that the virus is contagious for approximately 9 days after an individual is infected, whether or not you have symptoms or not. So when you present with symptoms, you've usually had the virus for about 3 days. Another 6 days, you are no longer infectious, meaning you are not shedding viable virus. Even when you don't have symptoms, you are infectious for approximately 9 days. There are significant limitations when using the PCR test in people without symptoms. Although the patient or your student could be contagious for only 9 days, the PCR test remains positive for up to 60 days in some people. This makes this test less than ideal for trying to find the virus in asymptomatic people. The reason why it can remain positive is that the virus detects pieces of the virus. They can be dead pieces of the virus as well, and those remain shedding for days and weeks after the actual infectious period ends. When we utilize a test, we're looking for the truth. Does a patient or a student have the infection? In a population of approximately 100 people, the virus probably isn't about one of them. But with the current limitations of the test, if we were to test all 100 people, about 6 people would test positive. That means that 5 people who actually don't have the disease test positive for the disease, along with the 1 person who has it. That creates a problem. In addition, if you test about 200 people, 1 person will test negative, actually have the disease. Let's put this into perspective. JR has never been infected with COVID-19. 14 days before going to Pine Forge, he quarantines appropriately, stays home. On day 1, when he arrives to Pine Forge, we utilize the test. If we did, 6 people would test positive, 5 of which would not have the virus. This creates a problem for JR that's done everything right, and he actually doesn't have the virus. Let's take another scenario. JR was infected with COVID-19 just as he began to quarantine at home. He quarantines, becomes infectious for 9 days, and then is no longer contagious. He travels to Pine Forge, just fine, no longer contagious. However, if you were to test him, he would test positive on the day he arrives to Pine Forge, but he's no longer contagious. This creates a problem. Remember, the COVID-19 PCR test can detect dead virus particles for up to 60 days. So, a positive result in somebody with COVID-19 or without symptoms should be interpreted as either the student was infected with COVID-19 and it's contagious, the student had COVID-19 but is no longer infectious, the student doesn't have COVID-19 and the test was a false positive. The purpose of a test is to find truth. Currently, the COVID-19 PCR test doesn't find the truth in asymptomatic individuals. The PCR test, however, does work in people when they develop symptoms. Let's take the unlikely scenario, but possible, that JR gets COVID-19 while traveling to Pine Forge. 14 days before going to Pine Forge, quarantines, does everything appropriate at home, but somehow, some way, when he arrives at Pine Forge or in his travel, he contracts the virus. Within 2 to 3 days, he's likely to develop symptoms while at Pine Forge. And if that happens and a test is taken, he will test positive more than likely. That's how the test is effective, finding individuals when their symptoms develop. After 9 days, while he's in an isolation state at Pine Forge, he becomes non-infectious and can continue on with his studies as normal with the rest of the population. Isolating everyone to a roommate family group on arrival to Pine Forge is the second phase of catching the potential pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic cases without the virus spreading at Pine Forge. In this unlikely scenario, JR has the virus when he arrives to Pine Forge on day 1. He is met with his roommate that is appropriately quarantined, WS. If the virus spreads between JR and WS, they will be the only 2 individuals exposed, and while they are in a relatively small family group of just each other, the virus will die out between the 2 of them within 14 days, in this unlikely scenario that a virus gets on campus. Unique factors at Pine Forge Academy that place us in a strong position are the remote location of the campus itself and the lack of penetration of numerous people coming on the campus and the students not leaving the campus. This gives us the opportunity to create a relatively sterile environment of the virus and limit exposures in the school. In addition, there's testing resources in Berks County that offer our students free charge testing if our students become positive during the year. We believe, after discussion of the science and amongst each other and capabilities, that utilizing a 4-phase onboarding of students at Pine Forge Academy is likely to produce a safe, free COVID-19 environment. Phase 0, the students and parents begin quarantining. That's 14 days before coming to Pine Forge. This has the potential of reducing even the small chance of a virus in our student population close to 0. On day 1, they arrive to the campus in which they will be pre-screened with temperature and a questionnaire for symptoms. If either is positive, they'll be tested for COVID-19, and the student will be offered onboarding in an extra care zone that limits the ability for the virus to spread beyond that student if the student indeed has the virus. After the appropriate quarantine time period, the student will be entered back into a small group of students for continued education. Education would begin as normal for that student. We are looking into contracting with Live Health Online, which is an Amwell company, to provide 24/7 physician consultation to each student throughout the year. This gives us the opportunity to provide not only consultative interactions with a physician with the student whenever they wish, but also behavioral health, counseling, and other services that the student or the parent may be interested in. The parents can be involved in each of these consultative services while the student is talking with a physician, and the physician themselves can order prescriptions, laboratory tests, etc., as a full service to our students during the year. It's going to be important to offer safe monitoring to our students once they arrive at Pine Forge. So in phase 2, it's the same day they arrive after they've been screened. We will be monitoring students for 14 days in their small family groups of just roommates. At this stage, we're looking for symptom development, which will be checked daily, and temperature checks, which will be checked daily. A contingency plan is in place to perform contact tracing in the case of a positive case or students developing symptoms. As the students are cleared in their small groups, on day 15, we will expand the family group to the entire campus. During this time period, we will observe for penetration of the virus that has escaped the previous 3 phases, and isolation will be performed. It's important to understand that a family group means that 2 individuals are allowed to be in distance, are allowed to remove their face covers with each other, and are allowed to be within 6 feet of each other. After phase 2 has ended and we move into phase 3, students that live on campus will be allowed to remove their face covers if they feel comfortable, and will be allowed to interact with each other on a more physical basis to include some sporting activities. And the sporting activities will be phased in as well. Students have a very strong and powerful role in keeping the virus out of the campus. And that means quarantining at home 14 days before coming to Pine Forge. That means that the last day of each student's quarantine should be the day that they're traveling to Pine Forge. This needs to be strict. No visitors or family members who travel outside of the home or pets that interact with other people or pets or other pets should come within 6 feet of the student unless both the student and other parent are in full face cover and greater than 6 feet apart. If the 6-foot rule cannot be maintained, limit exposure time while still in your face covers, less than 15 minutes. Students should wash their hands frequently while they're in quarantine and, of course, when they come to Pine Forge. They should disinfect their hands if their hands don't have dirt and grime on them frequently and after any sneezing, coughing, touching their faces, shared items, or really anything, and just do it more. Washing clothes should be done frequently in warm soapy water, and the face cover should be washed and kept clean. Use appropriate disinfectants. Pine Forge, we will likely utilize a weak bleach solution and provide spray bottles in the bathrooms as well as in the dorm rooms. So you'll have to be aware that if this gets on clothes, of course, it can cause problems with staining of clothes. However, a weak bleach solution is an ideal solution because it not only kills when it's wet, but even when it's dry and the virus touches the surface. Parents and guardians have a very important role in keeping the virus out. We also recommend that the one parent that comes with a student for a move-in should also quarantine for 14 days before coming to Pine Forge. However, we understand the circumstances may not allow. Thus, you should increase your protective stance for the 14 days before you bring your student to Pine Forge by wearing an N95 or KN95 mask when you are outside the house and cannot maintain distances of greater than 6 feet with other people for those 2 weeks. If you cannot, at a minimum, you should always be in a face mask or face cover of some sort when you're around other individuals. We overemphasize any hygiene that you normally do at that time. Enforce strict quarantine of your students and limit one parent traveling with the student to Pine Forge. I know this is hard, but it's imperative that we limit human contact with other students arriving at Pine Forge. This is also going to be difficult because goodbyes need to be said at home. No other children or young adults, including siblings, will be allowed on in-campus buildings during this time period in order to reduce the risk of the virus getting into the dormitories. Things to consider. Time frame is short. We just received the approval that Principal Reynolds has described to open up the school, but that means that we really have 3 to 4 weeks to get everything done before the students and the parent need to start quarantining. Immunizations and vaccines need to be completed prior to quarantining. So tomorrow, contact your physicians and get the students the vaccines that they need. Very important to get the second meningitis vaccine before you come to school. You will not be allowed to board if you do not have your vaccines. Remember, we're also quarantining in small family groups for 2 weeks once you arrive to Pine Forge. So the student will not be able to leave the campus to go get additional vaccinations that they did not get before coming to Pine Forge. Health physicals need to be completed before coming to Pine Forge. There could be an option, more to follow, with our Live Health Online, where physicians might be able to provide physical examinations via our online system that we'll have for the students. All dorm room shopping that need to be done before the student leaves home. That means that when you come to Pine Forge, you're not stopping at the stores to shop for things with the student. Bring the student to Pine Forge, move into the dorms, and then the parent can go out and purchase additional things to bring to the student. But the parent will not be allowed back into Pine Forge, into the dormitories. Transfer will have to take place outside of the dorm with the student in their full protective PPE. This algorithm is just to show you some of the complexity, but the thought process behind how we will proceed throughout the year based off of whether or not students show up as having COVID questionnaire positive and temperature positive, or COVID questionnaire negative and temperature negative, whether or not they develop symptoms throughout the year. In summary, we know enough about this disease and have detailed plans and protocols that will both protect our students and teachers and permit a productive school year at Pine Forge Academy. In the future, we will release our full paper on the Pine Forge Health Task Force COVID-19 policy and procedures for detail and feedback. Happy to take any questions, and thank you for this opportunity to present.
Well, thank you so much, Cheatham, for that thorough presentation. And certainly, we know that there are some questions, and we're going to allow those questions to be shared. There are a number of questions. If you have a question and you're watching, we ask that you would feel free to please type it in the chat room. We're going to try to get to those questions as best as possible. But I want to start with a few questions that are relative and fresh to Dr. Cheatham's presentation. So, Dr. Cheatham, there is a question that is directed to you. What if my child gets sick and is admitted to the hospital? What protocols are in place?
To be honest, we don't have a protocol that treats the patient or treats the student once they arrive to the hospital. However, our protocol does detail the exact signs and symptoms that we are looking for on a daily basis in students that do turn up having COVID positive symptoms and test positive. Our students that do meet those criteria will be in a special extra care zone in both dormitories that allow for observation as well as emergency call buttons while they're going through their time period in which the virus is clearing their system. If the students develop signs or symptoms that are severe and are listed explicitly in our protocol and policies and protocol, then the student will be admitted to the hospital system, and the parents will be notified all throughout the process.
Thank you. There's another question here for you, Dr. Cheatham. What is the protocol to monitor faculty and staff for COVID-19?
So faculty and staff are under the same process in which if they develop signs or symptoms, then they will self-isolate. They're also screened daily the same way the students are. There's an additional level of protection that the faculty will be under because of their ability to transmit the virus into the student population. So they will always be in a level of PPE that reduces their risk of transmitting droplets, and they will also have their own restrooms, etc. They will also maintain 6-foot social distancing from the students at all times, and there will be barriers between them and the students during teaching. The teachers will be tested if they develop symptoms as is appropriate, or will quarantine for 14 days if they develop symptoms, either or, depending on their consultation with their physicians. However, if they develop symptoms that keep them off of campus, they'll continue teaching from home, an online service. That's one feature that I did not mention before, is that regardless if a student is sick or a teacher is sick, education continues. Online training is always happening in every single class and social program. So students are always engaged and we have a seamless process.
Thank you. Master Reynolds, there is a question here that we would, you mentioned before, a little bit of time to get a little bit more understanding. And Dr. Cheatham has done an excellent job of taking us through from a medical standpoint, from a public health standpoint. But Principal Reynolds, what else can the parents and the students expect in the opening of the school for the 2020-2021 school year?
So things are going to look a lot different. If you have been on our campus, you will know you would have seen all of these gates. Most of those gates will be closed. So there will be only one way in and one way out. So that is something that will be different. Also, there will not be deliveries to any of our buildings. We will have that delivery coming to one of a small building on the side, and all those deliveries will be manned by a team that will be able to help the students get those deliveries, or help our team to get the deliveries as well. So those are two things that we will actually do. Registration, we have done a registration in the school building, but we are asking that you follow the registration procedures on our online portal and get all the paperwork completed before coming to campus. We want to fix our minds on, or the things that we need to do more on getting the student safely in the dorm and begin their schooling. So the more that we have to deal with registration pieces, that will make the process longer for you, and we may not be able to help you on that particular day. So we are asking that you complete all the registration pieces that we possibly can complete online, and I believe all of them are online. We will give additional information on our bands and how we are going to move throughout the campus once you get here, but we will actually have an orientation starting July 27th through the 31st, and that would give you more information on how we will actually move throughout our campus, and that is going to be an online orientation to all of our students.
Thank you so much. And Principal Reynolds, it is being asked. The information that was shared today, the detailed presentation that Dr. Cheatham gave, along with some others, will this information be available in writing? Will it be accessible through the school's website or through the school's Facebook? Will this information be accessible so that parents and students can refer to this on a regular basis?
Yes, definitely. We will make this information available to all of our parents and all of our students on our website.
Great. We're also grateful to have Dean Lisa Marshall and Dean Walter Reddick, our men's and women's dean respectively. And this is a question for both of you. And so, of course, we'll fill it to Dean Marshall first and then Dean Reddick to answer afterwards. Question is, it's a two-part question. How are roommates selected? And then if my child does not get along with his or her roommate, what is the process of changing roommates?
Okay, roommates are selected. Both Dean Reddick and I call the parent and we ask you questions about your child. Questions like, are they an early bird? Are they a night owl? What's their temperament? What are their study habits? Just a lot of different questions. And then we pair them together with someone that has like tendencies. In some cases, we get, because of timing, they may be paired with someone who is very different, but we have been able to work with the students and help them to manage the interpersonal skills. Most of the time we can work through the issues. They also have RAs that have been trained in peer mediation that will help them work through minor issues. Now, if there are major issues, we do make changes when the rooms are available.
All right, Dean Reddick, you wish to join in?
Yes, as Dean Marshall says, initially we call the parents up and ask them just a little bit about their children, likes, dislikes, and try to match as best as possible. And sometimes when we make these, we do not make a change without first talking to the parents of each young person we make change off to. Because in certain situations, they may just have to work the situation out because you may not be able to make move young people around. So that we do the best we can to match it off first initially, and get quite extensive with the information. Um, but if there's a change that needs to be, we try our best to accommodate both parties.
Wonderful, wonderful. Also, we're adding Mrs. Rhodes into the mix in this question. As a student in a boarding school, it's a two-part question. As a student in a boarding school, what does the day look like? And is there an option to attend Pine Forge online versus in person or vice versa?
Okay. Well, let me start off with the second question because that's the easiest to answer. The Academy, because of COVID last spring, had to go to an online program. Our teachers have been doing a lot of training on how to present their information online, and I can very happily say that they're doing well with it. We would like to be able to offer an online program for our freshmen. Specifically, we're dealing with some new information for those groups. For groups outside of that, we are still in the mechanics of it all. So right now, we really would like for our students to come to campus physically. We know that there are some concerns outside of that, and we're working on those. We should have some answers very soon. Now, what the day in the life of a Pine Forge Academy student looks like, traditionally, they're up very early, off to breakfast. They do about 3 to 4 classes before lunch. After lunch, they have another 3 to 4 classes, work, dinner, dorm, recreation. At Pine Forge, we're trying to keep them not necessarily scheduled to the hilt, but very much engaged, very much working and learning how to use their interpersonal skills with each other, as well as learning how to be leaders and how to put things together and be able to produce a product that is excellent. So yes, their schedule is rigorous. Yes, they have opportunities to hang out and have fun because they're teenagers. The teachers are offering tutoring after school. We have programs for students who need extra help, getting some peer tutoring from our honors and AP students, as well as some academic support in the afternoon. So they do have a rigorous program. However, they are supported all the way around.
Well, that's wonderful. This whole process is a lot to take in, and especially now in the time that we're living in. I mean, I was a student at Pine Forge Academy 25 years ago. 25 years ago, registration could be a lot to take in, and it's going to be even more to take in, especially with the conditions that we're living in. And so the question is asked, Mrs. Rose, this would be for you. Will there be any assistance in registration as people are trying to navigate the online? What type of assistance can they expect to receive, or Principal Reynolds, what type of assistance can they receive?
When it comes to registration online, our registrar does a really succinct job of getting in touch with families and working them through the process. As you do your registration, there's a checklist at the end of the application that lets you know what you've completed and what you still have to do. Our registrar will get in touch with you and let you know you've completed all these pieces. We might be missing 1 or 2. If you're having an upload problem, he is available and able to do that. As well as you'll get phone calls from our deans to kind of support you and say, hey, we're excited that you're coming. How can we help you through this process? So that's kind of what that registration looks like. That's the support that we provide.
Wonderful, wonderful. There's going to be a lot for parents to process as they bring their their young people to Pine Forge, and certainly there's no better place for them to be than Pine Forge. But we all know that this takes a lot of prayer. This takes a lot of wisdom and planning, and we're so grateful for what you're doing. There are a number of elements that play into managing Pine Forge Academy when you're not in COVID-19, and then with COVID-19. And so, Dr. Cheatham or Principal Reynolds, what's in place for Sabbath worship for the young people when it comes, because the church on the campus is attended by people from the community. What do things like choir look like? How does that look, and those trips and those activities? Can either one of you, Dr. Cheatham or Headmaster Reynolds, help us understand that?
Well, those are great questions. And I will say at the front of this, we're still working on how to manage those particular pieces even now. Due to COVID-19, we will not be able to have our concerts as we've had them before. But we are working on some innovative ways in which to touch our communities and to touch our supporters and our friends through some ways in which we haven't done this before. As you know, the choir has put together already one song or several songs through Jared Roseborough, and he has done an excellent job in just revolutionizing what we do for choir. We're going to do the same thing, but even bigger, even better, and this is something you do not want to miss. I just got through talking to him a little bit last week, and we are just excited about what is going to take place. So that's the first thing. Now, we know that singing actually causes us to have COVID-19. If one person out of 100 are in the room, we know that at least 25 to maybe 50% of the people may get COVID-19 when we're singing. So we are trying to figure out how we can actually do that safely. Our director, Jared Roseborough, has already talked to me about having sectional practices. We are having an A and B choir. We are doing all kinds of things to make that experience even better. We're even talking about having our master classes with our choir. We are going to teach others, and we are having some famous people as well. So we are just excited about what that looks like. We know that our Pine Forge Academy Choir is legendary, and that is one piece we will not leave out. So as it comes to other pieces on the campus, activities, we have begun to set up activities. Dean Marshall has activities already scheduled, beginning to schedule for the year. Even church, and I know church is an experience that we don't want to forget. So unfortunately, we will not be experiencing church with our community, at least for the first semester. We are going to be distant from them, and they're going to be distant from us, because we understand that about 65 to 75% of our community church members are over the age of 65. And so we do not want to put them in jeopardy, and they don't want to put us in jeopardy either. So we are working on a plan to separate from them, and they are working on a plan to have church by themselves as well. We are making sure that we paint some areas, renovate some areas, so that we can have church by ourselves.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear. The choir is legendary. The creative arts is also legendary. Rec time is legendary. A number of activities that have emerged since I was a student mean a lot to our students. So would the same protocols be in place for sports and for creative arts? Is there anything different for those activities?
Yeah, we will have to wear our PPE for a long time, at least through August 24th or even further. We will be relaxing those things once we figure out that everyone on campus can become a family like our Pine Forge family has always become. Once we find out that everybody is safe on campus and we are doing our due diligence as our teachers and our staff, once we understand how to navigate this piece, then we are able to work together and become a family. However, we know that at any time that we have to lock this thing down, we will be able to do that. You asked me a question about, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Activities or
Activities, sports, rec time.
Oh yeah, sports. So after August 24th, we're able to kind of let our hair down and be able to do more activities, more physical activities with one another. Now the question is, will we go and beat the Jewish Center down the road, beat them in basketball, where our girls go be able to beat them in basketball? Will we be able to play volleyball and our girls do an amazing job doing that? Will we be able to cheer like we've been cheering before? Okay, we probably won't be able to do it just as we've done it before, but we have something for you. We will have intramural sports for our first semester, and we have what we call house teams that we're developing, and it is going to be fantastic for you. So the competition piece that Pine Forge enjoys with others outside of our school, we won't be able to do those things because we want to keep every kid safe. However, we will be able to work together, learn together, play together, do activities together, but also compete together in very real ways. So we have some very different things that we're coming to you with.
So a typical school year when you're getting ready to come to Pine Forge, I'm thinking over these great memories of having this big trunk and having all this stuff to bring to Pine Forge. We had to bring all of this. We had to get everything ready for coming up there, and I'm from New York, and so it's a 4-hour drive. So whatever you forgot when you got there, you didn't get to the next time. But now we're in a different time, and the children, the parents are bringing more things. They have more. Their checklist is going to be a lot longer. Their checklist is a lot more detailed. In addition to the checklist and its availability, where can it be found, of what the student needs to bring? In addition, what PPE items are necessary for students as they are at Pine Forge Academy, in the classroom, in the dorm, and so forth and so on? Anybody can take that question.
Marshall, you can go ahead and start with that because she's excited. She also sent me. I won't steal her thunder. I'll let her start.
What we are going to ask them to do is to contain themselves to a trunk and 2 suitcases of things. We will be able to get some things via Amazon, via Walmart online. They can be able to ship anything else. But when they're coming in, we have to be mindful that the parents will wait outside the dorm and the students will have to come in the dorm and set up themselves. So they can have their bedroll in addition to those things, their bed in a bag, but 1 trunk, 2 suitcases. We will be allowing them to bring their refrigerators and their food, but because we are going to be disinfecting daily, we're not asking them to have any open food. We're going to try to contain their items that they're bringing so that we have less surfaces to sanitize each day. We want to keep them safe, so we're going to keep things to a minimum this year.
Wonderful.
I know some parents will be very happy about that, moving in and moving out.
Yeah. Listen, there are so many questions. Face mask as well. We know you have
the
mask. Yeah, there are so many questions in the chat room. I mean, we've got to let you answer these questions from these concerned parents. And so one of the questions that occurred quite frequently: how will home leaves occur, or what how will home leaves be handled with this coming school year?
Principal Reynolds.
Reynolds.
Well, let me tell you, you all will be with us for a very long time. We are trying to we will have opportunities for our parents to visit the campus in a different fashion other than coming on campus. Our goal is to have a safe and healthy campus locked down to everyone. So we are going to be on campus from August 10th all the way to November 20th. But guess what? Oh my goodness. What's going to happen is after Thanksgiving, after you roll home for Thanksgiving, November 20th, all the way through January 19th, count them, almost 3 months. Mercy. You will be with your parents. Well, not 3 months, I can't count. So November, December, and through January. 2 months, 2 good months. We usually have about 3 weeks or 2 weeks. We're gonna let you stay with your parents for so long. They can hug on you, love on you, say, oh, we miss you so much. However, about January 18th, you'll come back and be with us. We'll start this process all over again. If things don't change, that process will begin again 14 days before, 14 days after, and then we'll move through our protocols as we have before. But we will have opportunities. We have iPads, we have FaceTime, we have all kinds of opportunities for you to see and view your parents, and the kids can see and view you. When they get home, oh my goodness, I want you to learn how to love on them in so many different ways. But from August 10th all the way to November 20th, they're going to be ours, and we'll figure out ways in which to talk with you or be with you as a community online.
But what about, so, that's a lot. That's parents. You're going to have your kids for quite a long time. Gives the academy a chance to just take a round turn on things on the grounds and the dormitories. It gives a chance for everybody to exhale. But parents, students are concerned, and rightfully so, because they are their loved ones are coming to the school. They want to know more about a staggered schedule. They want to know more about AP classes. They want to know more about Oakwood Live. These are concerns parents. How is the Parents Association engaged during this format of COVID-19? So Principal Reynolds, Mrs. Rhodes, those who fielded at you, staggered schedule, and AP classes, uniforms. Where can they purchase their uniforms? There are parents who are new parents, and they're looking for all the information they can get. And so we want to help our parents be well prepared and well resourced to help their child have a successful school year.
So before Mrs. Dean Rowe actually starts the conversation about a couple of things, I just want to let you know that we just got approval from our Board of Trustees to be on campus. It was, they were very concerned about us doing this safely and doing it in a healthy way. So they want to make sure that no lives are lost, no one is sick, and that we move forward in a healthy manner. So that was number one. Just before I got on this call, I had to talk with our executive committee, which is AEC's board, and they were able to give us some green light to go forward as well. So once we have done that, once we got the green light from our friends and our ones that tell us exactly what we need to do, then we're able to actually move forward, print those letters, send that information to you, and we will be in touch with you every week. And we have an orientation from the July 27th all the way to the 31st. And that will help us to know exactly how we will transition on campus. But Dean Rhodes will talk about the education portion of that.
All right, so there's a whole lot of information that I can share. We have so little time. I will give you the best that I can. We are offering our AP courses again this year. So we're offering English, literature and composition, English language and composition, Spanish, and we are looking into a pre-AP program for our freshmen and sophomores. Pre-AP biology, pre-AP algebra and geometry, along with several other courses in pre-AP. That's kind of where we're going academically. We're working to be more rigorous in providing more AP courses. Our honors program, of course, will stay as it is. We have an honors course in every discipline, just about except religion. So those are still very much available. We also have several. Last year, we brought clubs back in, and we're working to clean those up and bring them back, making school not just about the academics, but more so about the whole student, the whole child. So we are looking at still providing poetry and art. We're trying to bring in a study skills program for especially our freshmen and sophomores, helping them understand how to study, how to take notes, how to be organized and get their schedules together. We're still offering those honors courses in our fine arts program, and we're looking to bring in a very nice media and communications piece. So that's kind of where we're going academically. We're also looking at providing more support for the extracurriculars that we do, scheduling them in a more succinct way. Now, as far as our schedule goes, we are still in process with that. One of the things we'd like to do, though, is look at a semi-block that will allow students a little bit of a respite from some of their classes on an every other day, if you understand the block system. And in so doing, they'll still be able to get that support they need, as well as really be able to be more intentional about how they study, when they study, and get the support to do that. I'm trying to make sure, did I cover everything, Orville? Is there anything?
Where did they get their uniforms? Where?
Uniforms. Deans, can you help us with uniforms, please?
Lynn O'Hara.
Lynn O'Hara.
Lynn O'Hara. Okay,
now, if you go to the website, on the website, in the handbook, you will see information on Flynn O'Hara. You will also see a list of things to do. This is in the handbook. If you go on pineforgeacademy.org, you will see our handbook, I believe, under student activities or academics. And in the handbook, there is a list there. I'm sure the deans will call you with more information, but you have that list. You also have information on how to get your uniforms and where you can order them from and how those pieces work.
Yeah.
If you go online and log in at Flynn and O'Hara, if you go in and log in at Flynn and O'Hara, they have the Pine Forge uniform listed there as well.
Okay. There are part of the students' engagement and in communication with their parents. They need to be able to connect. Has there been any change, any adjustment to the internet speed in the dormitories? Dean, can you help? Or Ms. Rhodes, in the building, has there been any change to the?
What did you ask, Elder? I didn't hear that. It didn't come through clear.
Has there been any adjustment to the Wi-Fi, the internet speed in the dorms or in the administration buildings? The students and parents want to be able to make sure that the students are getting the work done and turned in, and then able to connect with their parents and their family, seeing as though, of course, as Master Reynolds said, it'll be quite some time before they are leaving. So I'll leave the deans and then Mrs. Rhodes.
Deans. Walter.
Oh, the increase, yes. We will increase our the Wi-Fi in the dorms so that if because of the first 14 we have our classes there, so that as many of the young people in the past, too many young people get on, it may slow it down, so that our young people will be having accessibility to not only do their work, but to their parents as well. And that'll be for both dorms as well as in Wagner Hall.
Pulse.
Which speaks to it. We're also looking at a different platform than what we've used in the past to provide stronger internet access, as well as a stronger tool to help students be able to do what they need to do. We've had some problems in the past with ebooks and things of that sort, and we believe that we've kind of got it sorted out. You should be getting a welcome letter soon that will give you that information as far as what you need to bring with you, as well as what type of cases and all of those good things that you'll need to take care of the devices provided.
Sure. I was a student at Pine Forest 25 years ago, and I remember my parents making the sacrifices for tuition. And one of the options that we had back then was the industry, the jobs, the ability to work and to help out on tuition. We're in different times now, Headmaster Reynolds. What is the status of students being able to work? What does that look like, given the change that we're facing now?
Well, we need students to work even more and work harder, because we have a lot to clean and a lot to stay clean for longer periods of time. We also want to let the students know, the returning students, I don't know if some of them, we will not be in the girls' dorm having lunch. We will actually be in CC1, that new place that AEC has, that nice special place. AEC has been so great to us, and they have let us use CC1 for the entire school year. We will have picnic tables outside. We will be able to social distance ourselves at least for the first 14 days for that. And we are able to spread out and eat on all of our meals. So we are just so thankful for AEC for offering that to us. We are also working on a health facility in which we, not in the cramped nursing facility that we have right now, but we will be able to, we're trying to provide you a larger place where we can do more servicing for our students that are having some issues and then need to see the nurse. And we will have some very state-of-the-art pieces available for them to use. There was a question talking about mental health, and we do understand this is all fluid. We don't know how this all works, but we are trying our best to keep everyone healthy and keep everyone safe. But we also know that the mental health for our students is important as well. I will let Dean Marshall, if you want to talk about that, but first, not only will our life health mental, learning with our life health medical online piece help us with regular nursing pieces, but they also can help us with our mental health piece as well. Dean Marshall?
The students will be able to access the mental health and physical health site and talk to an actual physician and get their questions answered one-on-one whenever. And then the deans and the nurses will be alerted to what the follow-up should be. So they'll be able to do that from the comfort of their own rooms.
Great. So I just had a conversation with the administrator of our platform. And so there are so many great questions that we need to get to and spend a little bit more time, particularly these questions for Dr. Cheatham that we want to be able to manage. And there was just a lot of great questions. So I talked to the administrator of the platform, and the administrator allowed us to have some more time. And so if we could just ask our administration, our staff, could you just indulge us for a little bit more time? Our parents have a number of questions, and we really want them to walk away feeling like they are a little more confident about what's going on this school year. One of the questions that was asked, what's the tuition like for a senior, and when will the tuition rates be made available for on-campus and online school?
I guess I have to answer that question. We are looking for definitely a reduction in our online PFA virtual school, and that will not be the same tuition rate as we have right now. We know that we will do, it will be different. That's first. Any other deductions, if there will be any, we will let you know as soon as we are able to give you that information.
There's also, parents would like to know who is responsible for masks for their students. Is it being provided by the school? Is it being provided by the parents? Who's providing the masks?
Well, I'm gonna let Dean Marshall talk a little bit about the mask that she's been designing. It will be a combination. We're not exactly sure exactly how many, but the max right now, we want every student to have 7 masks available to them so that they can change them regularly and be able to be safe and healthy. So that's one piece. And so we're asking, so you're probably asking, how many do I need to bring? Probably between 3 and 5 that we will have you to bring, but we will provide most of those masks on campus for you. Dean Marshall?
We are going to do Kind Forge masks for everyone, and everyone will have those. But from the beginning, the 14 days of our special quarantine, where we have to separate ourselves, they may need a stronger mask. As we go throughout the month, they will be able to just wear face covers of their choice. So if they come in with 4 or 5 and we provide the others, it should be about 14 masks that they will be able to have at their disposal. The cloth ones, they can be washed and should be washed daily. Dr. Cheatham, did I get that right? And we're going to provide the N45 for those people who are having difficulty. Is that correct?
We will have a supply of N95 or KN95 masks in the dorms, as well as at the administration building. Face covers should be worn as the standard. And then N95 and KN95 masks provide you an extra layer of benefit. However, they're extremely uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time. And so a cover that reduces droplets from coming out of the mouth and the nose is sufficient, especially the cover that the student is actually going to wear. And so a cloth cover over the face and over the nose and mouth is recommended. Additionally, the face cover works so well, not just because of the respiratory droplets, but it keeps you from touching your nose and touching your mouth throughout the day and transmitting the virus in that fashion. So 3 to 5 soft cloth masks should be brought by the student, and it probably would be wise to have maybe 5 KN95 or N95 masks in their own stash if necessary.
Great. Dr. Cheatham, there's also concern about extra care facilities if a student contracts the virus, and also protocols to as it relates to off-campus students. Can you share what are the procedures for off-campus students? What are the extra care facilities looking like based on what you shared today?
So to be clear, we have extremely detailed plans to ensure that each student is taken care of at Pine Forge. That includes students that are without signs or symptoms of COVID-19 and those students that are with signs and symptoms of COVID-19 with continuation of education. The extra care zones are pre-designated positions that we have in each of the dormitories that will overall, the room will have HEPA filtration with room turnover, filtration of the air every 12 to 20 minutes. In addition to that, in the extra care zone will be extra care rooms that are complete negative pressure isolation rooms for each student that's in there. And the purpose is that when the student needs to go to bed, or the student needs to work on their computer, or the student wishes to eat, each of the isolation rooms within the larger room extra care zone will be able to provide an area where their respiratory droplets will be completely removed from the room and decontaminated. When they leave their individual extra care rooms and go into the larger extra care room, they will have to wear a mask when they're around other students in isolation during that time period. And that allows for some mobility while they're going through their symptom rehabilitation. They will have a desk in their individual isolation, their extra care room, and they'll be able to have their bed in that area as well.
Thank you, Dr. Cheatham. Headmaster Reynolds, you mentioned that after August 24th, there'll be a chance for the kids to be engaged in a little more interactive sporting events and things of that nature. What about Dean Marshall and Dean Reddick? What about the workout equipment in the dormitories? What will be the standard protocol for that use?
Well, currently we're working on our basketball rims outside so that the young men can continue playing basketball. Once we get back, we're also going to put a volleyball net outside and get our intramurals started. We may not be competitive in the Penn Jersey League anymore, but we will have intramurals running throughout the season. So you can see between male and female still basketball, even co-ed sports. So we plan on keeping our young people very active. We've been in touch with a fitness company to get us newer weights and more of the same weights. You know, you can have 2 10-pound dumbbells, 20-pound dumbbells. So make sure that we have that up to par as well as our benches. So I know Lisa has something else in her dorm as well.
Yeah, we're working on updating our equipment, but it will be scheduled and sanitized on a regular daily basis. After each use, there will be a sanitizing solution that they'll be able to spray and go down there. But we will have to limit, like everyone else, limit the amount of people that are able to go down there. So we're going to separate it by days per classification.
Great. Go ahead.
Can I make one? I'm sorry, I didn't answer the question about the community students. We have discussed this in private, and I don't know if Principal Reynolds is ready for it to be released, but we would encourage all students to live on campus during the school year. And the reason being is that students that are community students cannot be a part of the larger family group of removing face masks and being within the appropriate social distancing realm, or playing and sharing of utensils, or basketballs and things of that sort, as a result of the potential for community students to transmit the virus from their day-to-day activities, or contract the virus from their day-to-day activities off of the campus. The students that live off campus, community students, can come on campus and be around the other students, but they must always wear their masks and they must social distance from the other students. In addition to that, understand that there are a lot of facilities upgrades that we are making to ensure that the circulating air around our students will be filtrated in the classrooms as well as in the workout centers, wherever congregation occurs. We are also looking at UV light disinfection in many of the rooms as well to ensure that the virus is neutralized in a short period of time if it is released. I say all of this to say that this virus has a very low chance of getting into our community. However, every step that we take is a mitigation step to reduce its risk from traveling from one person to the next. The virus dies if it cannot get into another person. Washing your hands, maintaining distance, wearing your mask, using our facilities upgrades, isolating patients, when they have symptoms, monitoring them for symptoms every single day, and having a zero retribution policy across the campus in the students as well as in the teachers. If they develop symptoms and wish to stay home and train or teach, then teach or study, then that will happen. We'll follow up with likely a test and we'll see sort of what the response is with that. But it's important to understand that that this virus is real, but that our tools are good enough to keep it from
Mrs. Rhodes, our new students are coming and they're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to have just a lot of curiosity. How does a new student get enrolled in AP classes? Who determines that? How does that look?
So a new student who would be enrolled in an AP class would have to, of course, be a junior or senior. Our freshmen and sophomores are not in AP program yet. They would be in the pre-AP program. And in order for them to get into AP courses, depending on the course, there are some stipulations in our handbook: GPA, their class load, what diploma are they searching for? Are they doing a general diploma, or are they going for the college prep diploma? All of those pieces, along with their transcript evaluation and teacher recommendation, will put them in those pre-AP and AP courses. Now, as far as when they will be in those courses, when they first come to register, no one will be in those courses, none of our new students, because we need to evaluate them first before we put them into those programs. That evaluation takes place within the first month of school. They will do some evaluation with us, some assessments rather with us, based on the scores that they get on some of those assessments. That will help us figure out which AP and pre-AP courses to place them in if they so desire.
Thank you so much. Principal Reynolds, new school year, a lot of energy, a lot going on. What is the enrollment looking like? What is the standard student to room dynamic? How even, is there a plan B in case the county or the state goes back to when we were quarantined and having to make all these adjustments in the beginning? What alternative measures are in place? So what is the enrollment looking like? What's the student per room? What are any alternative measures if things go back to the way they were?
So our enrollment right now looks pretty good, especially for our new students. We have a lot of, I would say, many parents who are anxious to get their students into Pine Forge. And so we are so happy that people are trusting us with their child. So that's number one. We want you to make sure you get your spot now because spots are filling up. So that's the first thing. The second piece of that is we are trying to make sure that we social distance ourselves for those for that first month in August to make sure that our kids are far apart or 6 feet apart. And so our class sizes are going to look very different. Sometimes we've had 25, even 30 in a classroom. That can't happen this time. So we are looking to have a max 20 to 15 in a classroom that we can actually social distance themselves for the first month of a school starting. So then the question is, oh man, how are we moving forward, in this particular instance? How are things gonna look different? Everything is gonna look, many things are gonna look different. Give me your other question. I'm sorry, I just forgot.
Just if
what that looks like.
Yeah, what happens if the county or
So yeah, thank you, Orville. So we have a lot of excitement of kids coming. If we have to shut down, we will do the same thing as we have done in prior times, like when we did in the springtime. We have the capability, and we want even more capability now to even shut down and move to an online environment. We can still do that on August 10th if we need to. We can still do that October 10th if we need to. We can still do that November 15th if we need to. So anytime we will have a hybrid online model for our students who, when we have to stop, drop, and go online, we can do that. So that won't be a problem. And we know that our students are used to it. And we know that even our new students who they're used to it as well because they've been online with their former school. also. So we're able to be very nimble in making sure and flexible as we move through this entire year. At any time we feel that health is at risk, we will stop and we will move to online on our online community.
This question is for the deans. There are going to be a number of students with a number of different cases, and personally, some with orthodontic appointments, with medications, and possibly Principal Reynolds as well. How will these dynamics be handled? I know when I was at Pine Forge, even when my daughter was there, we both had braces. I was there with braces, she was there with braces. How will orthodontic appointments be handled? What about students that have medications and need to refill? What does that procedure look like?
Do you mind if I
Dr.
Yep.
take this? So within our protocols, we have outlined that when students have to leave the campus for any reason, then when they come back, they're restricted to their family group again for observation period. That's how this is going to have to work. So if a student leaves for an appointment or a student leaves to go out on campus, what we'd probably recommend is that they and their roommate leave together to go take care of events out in town, because when they come back, they're going to be back to the same family group restriction of wearing their PPE with each other. They can leave their rooms, but once they leave their rooms, they're back to that PPE on while they're around the rest of the students. They will be in a new observation period for 14 days. You can leave campus, but it has a bit of a tail drag on it.
Thank you so much. Any of the deans wish to?
As far as medication, we have a great communication with the pharmacies around us. They will the parents can send the medicine straight to the pharmacy and we can have it picked up. So medications will be filled. They will be able to take their medication as usual.
Correct.
Also, with every year, there comes some transition. And so naturally, parents returning and maybe even new parents are concerned. For example, if a teacher is not returning, has the teacher been replaced with a new teacher, or how has that been working, Principal Reynolds, in terms of being fully staffed?
That's a good question. So some of our positions will be that we do not have filled at this point, which are only a few. We may not be able to fill those positions with another person new to our community. Those, we definitely will have the same classes and the same class loads. We may be able to cover them via some other teachers or some other things that we have in mind as well. So that's the one piece that we will be able to do. We're not filling every position as we have. We are like everywhere else, we're all in a budget crunch, but we don't want to lay off any of our teachers. We want to make sure that we are fully staffed, and so the people that that are here now will stay here. Will stay here at the beginning of the and throughout the school year.
Also, Principal Reynolds, and then Dr. Cheatham, is a question I'd like you to answer. Students are coming back. They're excited to see their friends. There's a lot of excitement and a lot of engagement that's going to want to take place. And they're young people. They become curious, and sometimes they get restless and tired as well. And so the masks become an obstruction at some point. How is the faculty and staff going to help manage students who are desirous of parting with their mask from time to time?
You're probably asking, are there punishments for students who do not obey our protocols? Well, the punishment is that we are living in a life and death situation right now. So the first 14 days of school and the first 14 days before you get here are so imperative. And I don't want to put down, we're going to send you home, we're going to do this to you, we're going to do that to you. We want to make very clear that we don't want to put anyone at risk. And I know it is tough, but like when you see someone in the grocery store that you haven't seen in a long time, you don't go up to them as you have done before and just hug on them and say, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a long time. You see them from a distance and you wave. So we will have to, we're going to put in some, and we're going to need our students to help us to put in some kind of hey, I got you. Hey, I see you. Hey, we're gonna have to do some kind of some signs, some Pine Forge exclusive signs that we'll be able to keep each other at bay for the first 14 days, which are so very important. And if we don't do that, and you're putting people at risk, then we have to talk about a different way for you to matriculate on our campus. And so we don't want to have to go into a lockdown mode because you can't keep your hands to yourself. And so you jeopardize everyone when we don't follow the rules. And that will cause all of us to go into a lockdown mode for another 14 days because students cannot keep their hands to themselves. It is a life and death situation. And we're hoping to continue to put that on you at this particular time. I know it's tough. We want to have school, and we can have it safely. And we've seen it done safely, but you have to obey the rules.
Dr. Cheatham, there is much concern about the bathroom situation, and perhaps Headmaster Reynolds will have to talk as well, but you mentioned the bathroom situation in terms of how that is handled, in terms of its protocols, and also you mentioned it in your presentation, but it probably needs some more clarity. The teachers are, who are coming on and off campus. How will that be handled as well in the protocols that have been set forth?
So with the bathrooms, let me be clear. So my background, I'm an internal medicine physician and I'm a gastroenterologist. And so I deal with those sides of things all the time and understand that although what we have seen is that the virus particles can be found by PCR testing from plumes of the toilet. So flushing the toilet can release plumes of the viral particles. We're not sure that that's actually viable virus particles, just similar to when somebody gets the virus and continues to shed for 60 days inert pieces of protein from the virus that are not infectious. You can test those and they'll test positive on a PCR test, but they won't grow in a petri dish. And so we think that it's likely that these are dead particles even in stool. So I'm sorry to use terms like this. So these are the things that we're looking at in the bathrooms. When you release the stool, does it get on surfaces and things of that sort, microscopic amounts, and are there viral particles in there? The answer is yes. The receptor inside the intestine is the same receptor that's inside the lungs. However, the virus doesn't get to the hole inside until it's been denatured in many cases. And so we're not sure if they're infectious. However, we are taking full precautions that when the protocol will be for using the restrooms, that we will have disinfectants in the restroom. And the toilet will be sprayed with disinfection before and after you use the toilet. In addition to that, the sinks will also have spray disinfectant, and the sinks will be sprayed with disinfectant before and after use. What we do know is that the respiratory droplets do remain in the air for longer periods of time in humidified air. So if there's showers in the restrooms, then that air needs to be treated. And so we have facilities management to be able to sterilize the air in the restrooms. We'll talk about in more detail once the administration finalization plans on that. In addition, so with the teachers, I guess the question is, how are the teachers going to become less of a risk to the students? Every day, the teachers will go through the same screening protocol the students go through in a separate area. In the administration building, when they come to work, they will be asked the same questions, looking for signs and symptoms. They're teachers, though, so they have the right to stay home if they have signs or symptoms, not come to school and isolate from the students, and are recommended to do so and continue teaching from home. However, if they do have signs and symptoms, then they will be dismissed immediately to go home, or if they have a temperature. So I don't know if I've mentioned that as often, but a temperature check will be taken of everybody in the morning. Because remember, the signs and symptoms that we see a lot are fatigue or myalgia, temperature, and then loss of taste and smell. And so if we have those things, then we know we have a high likelihood of having somebody infected. I don't know. And was there another part of the question?
Well, Dr. Cheatham, is there, if a student, well, one question is, what are the reporting responsibilities when there are cases on the campus?
So, Principal Reynolds and I were talking this morning. We're in the process of developing an app for the school, and that app will allow us to both perform contact tracing, and we'll have immediate communication with parents and with the staff and the nursing. We'll also be able to communicate with the app as well. And so if a student tests positive by the quarantine questions as well as temperature check, and then they are tested for COVID-19, and a sneak preview on that, we may very well have our own testing site on the campus quite soon in our own CLIA-Wave lab. So if the student tests positive, we will notify the public, the Berks County Public Health as required for any CLIA-Wave lab. In addition to that, the app will communicate with the parents, communicate with the teachers, nursing staff, and this task force will remain in full function throughout the year to provide guidance to the administration and nursing staff for recommendations on contact tracing, contact testing, as well as recommendations for school closure.
Thank you, Dr. Cheatham. Principal Reynolds, got a senior class coming. They, senior year is real important. It's major. It's, it only comes once. And certainly we know that, as you mentioned, things are different. But can you talk about a few things for the seniors? Will there be senior presentation? What about Oakwood Live? Will there be a class trip? Can you talk about some of that?
Yes. So we definitely know that in the first semester of the year, it will be very difficult for us to contact anybody. Even if we were an open campus and we were letting people come in and out and so on and so forth, there's no way that we could probably go to Oakwood and do that same kind of thing and have people come back safely. So I don't know exactly what Oakwood is planning, but we know that the Columbia Union, has said that they will not have their leadership camp this year. So we will be looking to do that in a different way on campus. We know that Oakwood Live comes in October. And so we're not sure what that looks like, but for our campus at this particular time, it's going to be very difficult for the Office of Education to allow us to leave the campus and go to another place and then have to come back and do 14 more days of isolation. So that's going to be different. And I don't believe many, they're not going to ask us to come on their campus either. So Oakwood is trying to lock down their students as well as we're trying to lock down our students. TA and all the other schools are trying to lock down their students as well. So Oakwood Live will definitely probably happen, but it will definitely look a little different than we have right now. Our goal is when we come back from in the fourth quarter, we are going to try with all diligence for the seniors to have the experience that they have been waiting on for 4 years. But we understand that this is a very fluid virus. We know right now that the United States right now is operating the numbers, the count is going up and up and up. So we want people to stay safe. We want to do things safely. So our goal, we've already talked to Mr. Edgecombe. How can we get the kids off the campus in a bubble and go to a disinfected event? We're already talking about how that looks and how we can do that safely. So don't believe that we are looking at those things and how we can do them safely. If we can do them safely, rest assured, I am the first one to lead the band to get us off the campus into an event that you dreamed of. So that is our goal. Can we go somewhere for our senior class trip? Lord, I hope so. I want you to get off the campus. I want you to go somewhere where you can have fun with your friends. But will we be able to go out of the country? Probably not. Probably not. But will we be able to go to maybe some kind of resort or something? There is a possibility, but I don't want to get your hopes up high on that one either. Will we have graduation? I hope. I'm praying right now. We're looking at 90% sure that that's going to happen because we know how to manage right now. We didn't know how to manage in May, but we'll be able to know how to manage by then. So it is our goal not to, we want you to experience every possible senior class event that we possibly can handle and handle safely.
Mrs. Rhodes, Mr. Reynolds, school year is going to start August 10th. They're going to be on campus till November 19th. They're going to be gone for about 2 months in the school year. How will midterms, finals, ACT, SAT exams be administered? Does the 2 months break impact the school year in terms of the amount of days that you have to be in class? You shed a little light on that for our parents.
Sure. So let me see if I can take that question in pieces. The students will be with us, of course, from August 10 until mid-November. They will have their midterm exams right here with us on campus. They'll be administered as they would normally be, understanding that because we are shifting our schedule a little, the class sizes will be much smaller to provide us the ability to administer those exams in the appropriate amount of students per classroom. That takes care of midterms. When the students leave us in November, they will start back to class after their Thanksgiving break, but they will not be on campus with us. They will do their last couple of weeks of the semester online with their teachers, just as they had when they went home in March. They will, because we are looking at a Chromebook initiative, will be able to lock down their computers from a distance and provide the students with their assessments and be able to keep the integrity of the test for the fall semester exams. I'm trying to remember the rest of your question. It was a lot.
Yeah, the SATs and the ACTs.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the testing, because I just finished talking to our counselor. I'm sorry, I was looking down. I was texting people to make sure that I had all of my data. When it comes to our testing, now Pine Forge is a testing site. However, We are not allowing those people who would normally come to our campus to test with us on our campus. We've closed those gates, but our students will still be able to do their testing with us. We have been provided dates by those organizations for students to do their SAT and their ACT, their PSAT, and their Aspire testing on campus with us in small groups, which means where before we may have had a group of 15 to 20 students testing, that group would look much smaller. But our students will be able to test. No outside students will be using our testing facility as far as our standardized testing goes.
Thank you so much.
Surely.
Principal Reynolds, you mentioned earlier about the students being able to dine in CC1, and that's where they will be dining. Is that the only option for dining? And is there a meal plan that can be shared with parents? That is there an option for different meal plan, and what does that look like? What does the actual food service program look like?
So first of all, we'll be able to dine in CC1, the coveted place for everyone who wants to dine and come to Pine Forge Academy. So we'll be able to do that as students. And we will also be able to expand that through making sure that we'll have tables, picnic tables outside, other tables outside, so we can social distance ourselves from each other, and that we can just be in fresh air. Some will be inside, some will be outside. So we didn't have that option before when we were huddled up and close together. Now we have the option to spread out a little bit, be socially distant from each other, and be able to eat in an extended environment. I'll say that. Is there a meal plan that's different? Unfortunately, right now, we don't have a second or a third meal plan like school, like college does. We have one price for room and board, and that price will have to stay. But the students can choose a variety of delicious foods that when they come into the CC1, that will be provided for them. We have a larger place in which to make more food and with different varieties. So I'm sure that they will have something that they can choose. Now, I know freshmen have to eat breakfast because we know that that's the way that champions exactly move throughout the day, is you have that breakfast first. So champions, our freshmen, we will make sure that you get to breakfast and have that breakfast, and then all the other lunch and dinner opportunities will come. But do we have different pricing? No, we don't.
So what if last year there are some students, some parents who either paid for testing and the student had to leave? What happened to that testing? Or if a parent is still waiting for their student's report card, what are the status of things like that?
When it comes to the report card, we should have an update on those tomorrow. I am in process with that right now to find out what's going on with those. Remember that when we do send out report cards, there is a process that has to be done with finances. So if they haven't received those and there is no question about their finances, that's the piece that I'm working on. If there's a situation with their finances, then they would need to contact the business office on their report card. If they did any testing last year and they have not received the results of those, a conversation will need to be had with our guidance counselor as to if those have even come in. Because understand, when we went to shut down, everything shut down. Even the testing folks shut down. So ACT, SAT, PSAT, all of those programs shut down just as we did. And at one point, we were not able to even find out when we would get testing results, what would happen to those funds from the tests that were taken. She is in the process of getting updates from those agencies now. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be with us today She is the best thing for those parents to do is to email her directly. She's working with those entities to get some resolve on that. All of those companies are willing to do the testing for us if we missed it. So that's not a problem. For us, it's really going to be the challenge of scheduling it to make sure that it gets done.
Yeah, when I was in Pine Forge and Dr. Cheatham and Mrs. Rhodes, we were all schoolmates. We're really not old, but we were schoolmates. And when we were at Pine Forge, there was a list of things you couldn't bring. I think the list of things you couldn't have was longer than the stuff you could have. But since then, I've had cousins and family to come through, and students are having computers. Is that still the case? Can students bring their computers? And if a student doesn't have, what allowances are made available for the student that doesn't have a computer? What can they bring in terms of device, computer, tablet, so forth and so on?
So the Academy provides them with a device to use for their classes. In the past, we provided them with an iPad. We are trying to shift to a Chromebook. So they'll have a device that will be provided by the Academy. We do have a computer lab full of computers that work well. We also have in the library lots of resources and computers for them to use. In the dorms, they also have computers. There's a lot of computers on Pine Forge's campus, a lot. We don't say, no, don't bring your personal device, but understand that your textbooks, any software that we need you to use specifically will be on the device provided by the school. When students bring devices that we don't necessarily provide for them, there's always an insurance issue and a liability issue if anything happens to those devices. We know they're comfortable with their own device, but we do provide them with one that will help them be successful within our program. We don't say no, but we say, maybe not, because we have provided you with so many other options. Okay.
Thank you so much. Dr. Cheatham, we've had a number of parents come on since your briefing, and I know that they would really like to be able to get a little clarity on a few things. Is it possible for you to take time to summarize just some high points of what, and I know it's a lot, and I know they're going to make the presentation available, but can you summarize particularly just some high points of what a parent can expect in terms of when they're bringing their child, and what things need to be done, and what, especially what's being asked when they bring their children. So some parents come from very far away and they have to stay over a few days. And so can you just help a parent feel comfortable that when they travel this long distance, what can they expect in terms of the protocols? You're muted, Dr. Cheatham.
I was saying I don't know where to start. Can I pull back up my slides maybe?
Sure.
Can I? I'm not sure. Can you see? Let me share my screen again. Can you see my screen, Orville?
Can, yes.
In terms of just to go quickly through the phases, our goal is to produce to Pine Forge close to 0 students that have the virus. And in order to do that, we quarantine for 14 days before the student comes on campus. And that means that the student stays at home and is not in contact with anyone leaving the home aside from wearing their face masks at home, including the parent that's going to bring the student to Pine Forge. The parent needs to also, if the parent has to go out and cannot quarantine along with the student, we're asking the parent to wear the highest level of PPE, meaning an N95 or KN95 mask out in the community, and to be hyper vigilant about their hygiene and washing hands and disinfecting. And then when coming back into the home, to avoiding contact with the student except for when face covers are worn, and limiting distances with the student for the 2 weeks. It's going to be especially hard. understanding that the student is going to be coming to Pine Forge, but the goal is to present 0 students with the virus when they come to Pine Forge. This will annihilate asymptomatic carriers. I want to be clear. I've seen questions about asymptomatic carriers. We are choosing a treat option up front, not a test option, because the test is not accurate for people without symptoms. That's the reason why you're seeing so many schools that have started their academics and athletics program, and so many people are testing positive. Well, similar, our students that have been away for the summertime have had COVID-19. Some of them have. You may not even know it because usually young people don't have very many symptoms at all. But if you were to test them right now, they would test positive, even though they are not infectious anymore. Going back to my statement again about the bathrooms having non-infectious pieces of the virus particles around. So if you stay away for 14 days, the virus will run its course through the student and through the parent. Once you arrive to campus on day 1, you will go through health screenings, a questionnaire. That is a test that tests for symptoms. If you test positive or if your temperature tests positive, whether you are let me put this on the full screen maybe, whether you are a parent or whether you are the student, then you will go and receive testing with the PCR test. The student is positive for the PCR test, then the student will stay in the extra care zone for full 14 days to allow the virus to run their course. If the student tests negative at that point in time, the student will stay for an additional 72 hours in the extra care zone to ensure that if they have the flu or non-COVID-19 viral respiratory illnesses, that does not get into the school body as well. Starting before the student comes and while the student is on campus for the whole year, the student will have access to our own private network of physicians, including pediatricians, mental health specialists, counselors, and any other subspecialists that's necessary in order to care for our students, in addition to our nurses. In phase 2, the student will immediately, once cleared the questionnaire and testing, go into a room structure or go into a small family structure of roommates. So the student will be exposed just to their roommate for 14 days. That doesn't mean that they're locked in their rooms. They just have to wear their masks and their PPE and social distance outside of their room. Their roommate is the only person that they can have fidelity with, and without the masks and without social distance. This will allow us to capture any additional breakthrough of the virus that may have escaped the quarantine time period. An Orville question about the individuals that are traveling from overseas, or like my daughter Christine, who will be traveling by plane. There is the possibility that they contract the virus in transportation, or they should be wearing their highest rate PPE, and that will make it very unlikely. However, if somebody does contract the virus by the time they come, the only person that potentially is at high risk will be the roommate. That is a risk, but it's extremely small. During those 14 days, we'll be monitoring both for symptoms. If either develop symptoms during that 14 days, then both will be put in isolation and the person with symptoms will be tested. If one is asymptomatic and the other is also asymptomatic during the 14 days, they will both run the course of the virus and not be infectious to the main body after the 14 days. I have to refer to our contingency plans that will be published later so that you can understand how this will work in detail. On day 15, everyone hopefully should either have gone through their quarantine time period, or we may have a few still in the isolation rooms. The majority of the campus will be expanded to a full family group, and this is where Dean Reddick and Dean Marshall talked about the ability to exercise and play basketball and things of that sort, because we now have a sterilized population on Forge that now must be protected from other people. Did you want me to go over what a quarantine looks like, Orville?
Orville, you're muted.
Briefly, Dr. Cheatham, just
Okay.
question about that. Mhm.
Students stay at home, basically. They don't go outside unless they're going out and they know that they can be outside without interacting with other people. If they are going to come in contact, they have to go outside, then they should be wearing their masks. People coming into the house from outside should be wearing a mask around the student, and they should maintain 6-foot distances. If you can't maintain 6-foot distances or you choose not to from the student, at least wear your mask, and please limit the time to less than 15 minutes. Students should be washing their hands religiously and disinfecting their hands religiously. Wash clothes in warm soapy water often, and your face mask should be washed daily. Face covers should be washed daily. We'll be using disinfectants to neutralize the virus at school and also on surfaces and in the toilets. This will be a bleach solution, but understand the reason why we're doing this is because a weak bleach solution kills on contact, but it also continues to kill if the virus lays down on top of it later. Parents and guardians, we talked about your PPE level that you should be in, and you should try to minimize exposure outside the house as much as possible. We also need the parents to enforce the strict quarantine of their student and limit one parent traveling with the student to begin enrollment and to onboard into the dorms. Unfortunately, no other children or young adults, including siblings, will be allowed on campus during enrollment time period. This means that you have 3 to 4 weeks to get all of your vaccinations. All of your immunizations and vaccinations need to be completed. So tomorrow needs to be the date you're calling your physicians for appointments. Health physicals need to be completed prior to the quarantine. We may be able to utilize our Live Health Online cases where you just couldn't get in because we know it's going to be difficult to see physicians. All dorm rooms. Let me go back to the vaccines. One of the most important vaccines to make sure that you have is the meningitis vaccine. That second shot, you should have a series of 2. If you don't have that, there is no way we can make provisions for you to stay on campus. But all vaccines and immunization should be completed. Please do not stop at stores when you come to Pine Forge. Bring the student directly to Pine Forge for move-in into the dormitories. Afterwards, parents and guardians can go out and purchase things and bring them back to their students, but they will not be allowed in the room. The student can come out in their PPE supplies and bring it into their room. Thank you. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Dr. Cheetah. That was a lot of information, and the balance of this information, these slides are going to be made available on the school's website, www.pineforgeacademy.org. There were so many great questions, and we tried to hit as many of them as we can, keeping up. We also want to thank our administration and our faculty and our staff and Dr. Cheatham for being online with us today. We're also very excited that we want you to keep your social media notifications on, your emails on. There's going to be another forum where new parents will have time with the administration to ask all of your questions. But as we get ready to bring to a close, I want to ask Principal Reynolds, can you just share, this is probably going to get shared with a whole lot of people. Can you share the mission and the vision of Pine Forge Academy? What can parents and students expect of the faculty and staff? And what are the expectations of the faculty and staff for the students? Can you talk about the vision and the mission of Pine Forge Academy?
So you know that our motto is that we are striving for excellence. And excellence is no accident. And so we are trying our best. We've made mistakes, we've done things, but we are trying our best to make sure that every student gets a quality education. We want to start that with continuing to go to Pine Forge. We understand that on our on-campus touch is where we get the best experience we possibly can have. But we know that in these COVID-19 times that we are also experiencing people that won't be able to be with us, but we still want them to be with us through our online experience. Our teachers and our administration and our staff and even our friends and our parents are trying their best to make sure that Pine Forge opens with a safe and healthy protocol that all students can be safe. We don't want to compromise our academics. We don't want to shut that down by any means, but we want that to get better. We're right now in the throes of painting the dorms, putting different things up to make sure that we have good air. We're making sure that we have a health and wellness center in which our nurses can be safe and our students can be safe, and that we can protect everyone when they get on campus. So we know that each of these opportunities we have to be diligent about, and also we need our students and parents to be diligent about as well. I want to steal a little thing that I heard online just the other day. We want you to understand. I know Dr. Cheatham told you a lot of things that we are going to do. But if you keep these 3 things in mind, I think you will be safe. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. If we keep that as our protocol all through this time, we know that we can keep safe. And so we are asking for your prayers. We are asking for people to fast and pray for us as we do our best to open safely and to give a quality of education like none other before. We want to have all of the things that we have experienced with Pine Forge Academy that are legendary. We don't want to compromise those at all. We know that we can't touch and be with others through this time, but we want to make an experience that you have never had before. So thank you, parents. Thank you, staff. Thank you, all of our friends, our alumni, and our supporters. They are trying their best to make it an incredible year for each and every one.
Thank you so much, Principal Reynolds. There's going to be opportunity for you all to contact the faculty, the administration, the staff directly with other concerns that you have. We appreciate all of the parents taking the time this afternoon to engage. We know that it was scheduled for an hour and you stayed on with us. We tried to stay as long as we could make this information as thorough and as clear to you as possible. Thank you, Headmaster Reynolds. Thank you, Dr. Cheatham. Thank you, Dean Marshall. Thank you, Dean Reddick. Thank you, Dr. Cheatham. And I am Orville Brissett. I'm your pinch hitter, your standby, I'm not the original moderator. I happen to just have to step up to the plate. I'm thankful that y'all were flexible with me for just a little while this afternoon while we try to manage everything, including technical glitches. But please stay tuned for more information from Pine Forge Academy. In these times that we're living in, Pine Forge Academy is not your second choice, it's your first choice. Because at Pine Forge Academy, we specialize in making young people prepared for now and for next, a place where excellence is no accident. So we want to close with a word of prayer and just thanking God for the time we had together. Father, we thank you for the time we had together. We pray that you will bless students, parents, faculty, staff, everybody whose heart cares about Pine Forge Academy and desire to see it succeed. We pray even now, God, that you will place a hedge of protection around students and parents, around the facilities, around faculty and staff, God. We pray that our preparation, our planning has also the stamp of the Holy Spirit, that kids and teachers are healthy and safe, that parents are safe and secure with what's happening with their children. And may it be by God's grace that they lose nothing in terms of the spiritual growth, lose nothing in terms of the academic growth and the physical and mental growth. We pray, God, that just as your word says, and Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man, that will be the testimony of our children this school year. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. God bless.
We'd like to thank you as well. You did pinch hit for us, so we thank you for making this happen for us. We called you, and you were a guy that's right on the spot for us. Also with your wife as well. She is just an incredible supporter of Pine Forge, an alumni, and she has done an amazing job as well. So thank you to your family.
All right, everybody, have a blessed evening. Bye-bye.